On the Brooklyn Bridge tonight, voices strong, knowledge tight. Thorough Black Talk in the air, changing minds, changing flair. From Brother Tad to Sister Kate, warriors got things to say. Sister Marcia brings the heat, Brother Blacksmith keeps the beat. Revolutionary waves they fly underneath the open sky. Every word's a call to fight. Tune in, feel the ancestral line. Thursday nights, the world will see Black Power Media on the spree. Facebook, YouTube, all aligned, breaking free from every bind. Social talk and politics, every voice breaks through the matrix. Commentary raw and true, for the many, not the few. Revolutionary waves they fly underneath the open sky. Every word's a call to fight. Tune in, feel the ancestral line. Ancestral line.
Standing strong on the bridge tonight. We've got dreams and we got fight. Voices loud in the city's light. Change is coming into sight. History told by scars and pain, echoes deep in every name. Legal truths we must reclaim, through the storm and through the rain. Thorough Black Talk Worldview, with Brother Tad, Sister K, Sister Marcia, Brother Blacksmith. Cut the check or no vote, yeah. Justice calls from open skies. Tears that fall, ain't no disguise. Marching forward, no surprise. Strengthen hearts, you can't downsize. Every voice a sweet refrain. In this fight we share the strain. Through the joy and through the pain, bound together like a chain. Thorough Black Talk Worldview, with Brother Tad, Sister K, Sister Marcia, Brother Blacksmith. Cut the check or no vote, yeah.
Good evening, family. Welcome to another edition of Thorough Black Talk with your Sister K Fighter, your Brother Tad, Sister Marcia, and Brother Blacksmith. They will be joining us a little later, family. Running behind the scenes. So they're going to catch up with us in a few. But a lot has been happening this week. I hope you all have had a good week so far. We got a lot to get into. Still the shenanigans that are going on social media platforms between the diasporas. Some instances things are calming down, but in others they are not. So we're going to touch on that. Also, our sister Brooke did a brilliant expose on slavery from the continent. And I thought it would be great that we discuss it because it is a 3-hour piece, but we're going to break it up into 3 parts. And y'all know I like to work backwards, and it's for a reason. But we're going to discuss it because, like I said, on various social media platforms, a lot of commentary are going on behind the scenes, very disrespectful on both sides, I see. But the majority is coming from the diaspora. Also, a myth that Africans never played a part in the enslavement of our people. So we're going to discuss that as well. But before we do, I want to give some shout outs real quick. Sister Farnessa, what's good, my sister from another mister? Yes, we about to get into it, sis. I want y'all to come with it in the comments now. Come with it in the comments. And also, we'll drop the link in case, you guys want to join us. You can open up your mic and keep your camera off if you want. Totally up to you. But we will afford you that opportunity. So peace to you. I hope y'all not suffering with allergies, because I am. Weather's been going crazy. It's been kind of nice, though, the last few days. But I don't know. My throat is scratchy and all of that. So bear with me this evening. Sister Donna, Brother Kerwin, what's happening? Alabama, boy. First two on the check-in. Y'all better stop playing with Alabama. I always said, when I leave New York, one of the places that I'm looking at is Alabama. So yeah, I might be a neighbor. Who knows? Sister Joyce, Brother Monty, Suffolk County in building by way of UAN. What's happening? Glad to see you. Sister Aruba, 927 Doggy Diamond TV Mars in the building. What's happening? Please make sure y'all go over there and check out Doggy Diamonds TV and give them a subscription. And, tell them we sent you over there. You won't be disappointed. Rich, nice. What's good, my brother from another mother? How are you? Hope everything is going well on your end. Big Hot, what's happening, fam? Woo! Tomorrow phone call gonna be heavy, fam. I got more info. Telling you, it blows your mind. When you dig into family history, and you research, the footsteps or your family's footprints, I should say, on this planet, it can be overwhelming, So for those of you who don't know, I have been researching both sides of my family for quite some time. And last night I came across some information on my mother's side that, I couldn't sleep. Really, I couldn't sleep all week because this thing it takes on a life of its own once you begin to peel back the layers. So on my mother's side, and I will include that in the book, actually finding the bill of sale for your loved one or for your ancestor, it's mind-blowing. And a lot of people can't say they've done that, but researching your family's history should be in the forefront of all historical research, because it gives you a foundation of who you are and what it is that you need to do in this life. You understand? So I can't wait to get into it. Aunt Marie, Uncle Jesse, what's happening? Brooklyn in here heavy, family. We in here heavy. Jess, what's happening, Unc? What's happening? I gotta get into Unc family too. Because Unc be telling me some stories. And my inquisitive mind, takes over. So, some of the stories that, my uncle tell me is about, what happened with his family and, losing their property in the Carolinas. So, a lot of that has taken place, for generations, going back to the 1700s. Land theft in this country has been rampant, especially with people of our melanin hue. This is no small thing. So, definitely want to get more into that story because, like I said, you have generations that come after you, and it's important that you leave a blueprint roadmap to the family's legacy or the family's history. And so, I have taken upon myself to do that because, we all not going to be here forever. So it's something that I feel must be done. So if not them, then who? If not me, then when? You know what I mean? So definitely going to get into it. Yes, sis. I would encourage everyone. I've been thinking too, maybe I should host a Zoom class or something to give people the the fundamentals on how to begin researching your family's history. You'd be surprised. And now, since this particular bit of information that I have, uncovered, or that we have uncovered, it's now leading me into, those who purchased my ancestor, because you don't just stop there, you keep going, because when it's all said and done, I'm coming for all of our bread, period. So you need all of the information that you possibly can. Sister Amanette too, the Midwest crew, what's happening? Yeah, I mean, it's something that I think, Sister Farnessa, that everybody should do. I hear a lot of people, especially those of like minds such as us, talk about great moments in history, but they don't know anything about their own family history. For whatever reason, they have skipped over that process. And it's important, that you do that. So I'm thinking about it. Maybe later on in this, in the spring or early summer, we will do that. I'll have a little bit more time to do that. Yes. I would love to, sis. So, let me know in the chat if y'all would like or interested in such a class on the fundamentals on how to research your family's history. Because once you unpeel one layer, you can't stop, because it's like, when I found out certain things about my family, shout out to Brother Ray and the BK William Mackey History Club. They had Dr. Tareen Wright on last night, and it was a powerhouse. And you can catch the replay on our Thorough Black Talk page. And definitely you want to get Dr. Tareen Wright's book on Booker T. Washington, because in that book, she talks about the admiration that Marcus Messiah Garvey had for Booker T. Washington. So kudos to the BK William Mackey History Club. And of course, if you have a particular book that you may be interested in, who knows, Brother Ray may have it. And, just let us know, and we'll pass on the information to Brother Ray so he can get it to you. Shout out to Sister Manira. What's happening? So yeah, if you're interested in taking that class, let me know, and we'll definitely work out something, because I'm telling you, when you see a bill of sale for your loved one, it not just the markings, right? Because they were listed in property ledgers or real estate wills and things like that. So when you look at all of that, it just blows your mind. And it also gives you a blueprint of how they co-opted our legacy and re-identified us in various centuries, right? So for example, one ancestor, he started out as a mulatto, right? His wife being native. And then they both ended up being black, and then their children being Negro. It's just crazy. It's crazy. But, and now people have issue with us re-identifying ourselves and doing it cohesively. It becomes a problem. This ideal of what movement or revolution is seem to be confusing to a lot of folks. I think the idea of movement and revolution was somewhat cult-like in previous years, and people don't understand that that's just not the way to go. You cannot condition or change the mindset of those who are working for a genuine cause. That's, not productive in your fight. So yeah, definitely. Oh yeah. Okay, brother. Okay. So Rich Nice, Sister Fawn, Nesta Amanette too. Excuse me, Aruba 927. Yes, all right. We gonna make it happen. We'll make it happen. Sister Aminette too. We gonna make it happen. We gonna make it happen because it's not as difficult as you think. Especially even if you don't have a connection with your family, I can show you how to get things done on elementary level, and that will, propel you to see. All right, I'm back. I'm back. Y'all hear me? Everybody hear me good? Tad, you hear me? Okay, he does. All right. So, sorry about that. I don't know what happened. But anyway, yes, I will definitely get that done. Y'all want the class? We're gonna make the class happen. Like I said, I've been having these weekly calls with my family, with my aunt and uncle. Some of these weekly Friday calls with the family. And so I just thought it would be fitting that I share with them the information that I've had. And just since last week, I've uncovered more information, and it's mind blowing. So I got to make some trips because you can only go so far with digital information. Depending on how far you want to go, you're going to have to visit some of these archives. And some information you can get for free. A majority of the information actually you can get for free, and I'll show you how to do that. And one of my favorite shows to watch is Finding Our Roots. Though I'm not too particular about Skip the Truth Gates, but I do have an affinity for that show because it gives so much of an uncovering, if you will, of your historical record. So, yes. Oh, wow. What happened? I was watching it today. Oh, man. Here we go. They must have did something. Ray let us know why they pulled the video with Dr. Tareen Wright. But let me get my brother Taz. Sister Marcia, you need a few more minutes. You ready? She says she's ready. She's ready. So, family, welcome to the Brooklyn Bridge OG Wisdom Podcast. Brother Tad, let's get it. Let's get it. Unmute, brother. Unmute.
Look, there we go. There we go. All right. Had to feed my face a little bit. I'm running behind.
All right, brother. I got you. Let's go. Sister Marcia. Africans on the rise on the Brooklyn Bridge. What's happening, sis? How are you?
Happy Black Taxes Thursday, family. How's everybody doing?
Black Taxes.
Sister Keisha.
We in the black and white. Tonight. Let's get it.
I don't know. I ain't black no more. I ain't black no more. I'm turning in my black card.
What card?
Getting out the black movement.
So what are you gonna be? A white man?
All right.
Okay. All right.
We got Jews and Latinos. Well, they got small hats and Latinos, and I'm joining the group.
Okay. Enjoy yourself.
I got kicked out of the black group, so yeah.
Why? What'd you do?
That's what I didn't do. And I
didn't. We got kicked out, Sister Marcia. We got kicked out.
Why? What did y'all do?
You got kicked out too.
Both of y'all.
You got kicked out too.
No, I'm never kicked out. I'm always black. The black ones need to follow suit with us. If they're trying to kick us out, they need to follow suit with the truth.
We try to tell them, sis. They don't listen. You got too many bad hombres out here. Too many bad hombres.
They just love capitalism.
Yes, they do. Yes,
I like a few dollars now.
Brother, wait. Let me just say this. You may like currency, but capitalism is a system that divides us all. So when we have capitalism within our system, we can create our own structures. Right now, we're just spending money. We need to create systems. And I don't disagree with you. I am in full agreement with you in liking a system, but we still don't have a system in place within our
You
own
know why?
community.
You know why? And we did. And this is the one thing I keep telling our people. All that we talking about, we've been there, done that. We had a
Agreed.
we had a
Agreed.
black economic system when everything
Agreed.
was segregated.
Agreed.
When we had
Agreed.
Tulsa, Oklahoma, when we had Durham, North.
Rosewood. We had what's
But I
that?
was going to say, Sister Marcia, real quick,
Mhm.
because I was going to make a quick point. The extremism and the rhetoric. That's where I wanted to go. The extremism and the rhetoric. Yeah, we don't like capitalism. For me, that's a buzzword for a lot of people. Not saying you, because what you're saying has validity, but a lot of times people talk and they don't use things in its proper context. And what they do is they may have heard a fiery activist or let's say a Malcolm or a Dr. Khaled. They're very fiery, emotional, and thought-provoking, but they qualify their statements with facts and statistics. But some people just take sound bites and hold on to that and run with it. And this is where we are right now, because people constantly say, oh, what black people need to do, we need to do this, we need to do that. Everything everybody's saying we need, we've had and have. People say, oh, we need independent black schools. But we got those. Seek them out and support them. That's all I could tell people. Oh, we need to support black businesses. We do. But black businesses, and not to be on the wallow stuff, but have something that people could use. Because everybody can't be selling incense, soap, and shea butter and crystals. That's not really the end all be all of black business. Where's the insurance companies? I mean, we did have black insurance companies too. Let's keep it 100. This is thorough black talk. Everything we talking about we need, we've already had, but because people fall into the rhetoric, they don't have a clear grasp of what it is to truly be independent and free. Have a liberated mind. Stop following the crowd. The whole thing with FBA right now and Pan-Africanism. I've been talking to people. And the sad part, right, Sister Marcia? See, this is why I love you and Brother Black. Most people who are not foundational black Americans, they don't even open their minds to understand what our position is. They just hear Tariq Nasheed and then they run off the deep end. But I said that's the same as having Dr. Umar be the representation of Pan-Africanism. Dr. Umar don't speak for all Pan-Africans. So Tariq Nasheed don't speak for all FBAs, and Tariq Nasheed never claimed to be the prince of FBA or the king of FBA or the leader of FBA. It's all about, as Sister Keisha opened the show up, your lineage, your bloodline. How do people legitimately debate that? How do they debate you tracing your ancestry back through your mother's side, through your father's side, your paternal grandmother, your maternal grandmother? How do people? But again, it's the rhetoric, because within this movement, we're so used to being angry and unaccomplished in our lives. And I'm not talking about socially unaccomplished, I'm talking about internally. Because when you're accomplished, you understand and identify your story and you leave space for other people to unpack and tell their story. But stop making it a one size fits all. I had to tell somebody, it was like, oh, black Americans, so when do you stop being African? I said the moment the children are born with people of different races and nationalities, like Sister Keisha said, she had an ancestor who was a mulatto that married a native. So now where's the African in that? And I mean, there's African blood in it, because we got to realize we're under a social construct of European people that made up words, because nobody's calling themselves black. It sounds good to say, yeah, black Africa and nobody's identifying as black. Talk to a continental African right now. They didn't call themselves black in times of antiquity, but learning that bastardized English language, they learned to adopt the word black to translate the word. As Dr. Clark said, there was no word as orphanage in the African language because orphanages didn't exist. There were no old folks home because nobody threw mom, grandma, and grandpa away. This is a bastardized language that we're speaking. We know black is a social construct that Europeans created. We know whiteness is a social construct that Europeans created. But when we start regurgitating their words and using their ideas to make our points, we lose the argument. Sister Keisha said an ancestor was a mulatto, married a native. People calling that person quote unquote African is subscribing to the one drop rule. And we know mathematically that's impossible. One drop don't make something. You got 1% out of 100, and that's everything. You drop a drop of ink in a gallon of milk, and all of a sudden you got a bottle of ink. No, it's just milk with ink in it. It's still milk. Maybe tainted a little bit with however you want to look at it. But the math ain't mathing. But again, all of this is rhetoric. And I get it. We studied the master teachers. We studied the ancestors. But here's the thing. We're supposed to stand on their shoulders and pick up where they left off at, not go back and be stuck with them. Their position is from the 1920s and 1940s. Ain't none of us, not too many of us, on this platform has been alive in the 1920s and 1930s. And if you are alive, well, God bless you. God bless you, because you were able to see the transition and know what I'm saying about the social construct of what the European has created. But we regurgitate that in this quote unquote black vacuum without really getting knowledge of who you truly are. And it's just disappointing. But I don't want to take up too much of my time with that. I just had to put that out there, Sister Marcia, because one of my favorite speeches by Malcolm was called "Extremism is No Vice." And he's talking about the need to be radical in opposition. But the times are different now. We still need to be radical, but we have to also be strategic. One brother I met downtown, we was having a conversation. He was like, yo, you deep, brother. Looking at you, I would never think. I said, if we behind enemy lines, why would I wear my uniform? To stand out? To be blocked out before I could get the information. This is like Sister Keisha is in certain rooms. This is why she could bring us back information we would never be exposed to. Why? Because Sister Keisha ain't running up in there with an afro pick and dashiki or t-shirt say down with the white man. She not doing that. She moving smooth, true to herself. I get in these spaces, people don't know who I am. They don't know what's my religious belief, my political affiliation. They don't know nothing about me. I like to go places and look pretty much ambiguous. So you don't have me figured out. I always wear a Yankee hat. So people always, random strangers always walk up to me, talk about the Yankees. Gotta tell them I'm not into sports. No, you got that? No, I just love New York. That's it. My point is, we have to stop wearing our emotions on our sleeve because we think we're the loudest. It makes us right, and it doesn't. And everybody, I had to ask the brother. I said, let me ask you, as a Pan-African, is Black America not part of the diaspora? Are we, as Pan-Africans, is Black Americans not part of the diaspora? And people can't answer that without being emotional. I said, because if we are, why we can't fight for what we need right here, right now? Why everybody got a problem with us? I said, that's the same thing the white man do. Try to tell us who we are, try to tell us who we're supposed to be, as opposed to letting us identify ourselves, but with true facts and science, our lineage, our mama and our father. That's who we are. Not a Hebrew Israelite. I'm not a Moor. I'm not worshiping a head of lettuce named Ralph like Lee, what's his name? Rerun. I'm not doing none of that, Sister Keisha. But it pains me because I really thought our people were smarter, because we got some intelligent brothers and sisters. I won't say that. But this explains why we're still on this hamster wheel. And here in America, for centuries, what our ancestors been fighting for, our voice is being heard right now. And people are still playing with it, interrupting, and we're not supposed to say nothing about it. And I like what Sister Brooks said. Oh, we fighters. We with all the smoke. We've been fighting, but I'm going to step off my soapbox. I just had to put that out there. Shout out to Sister Brooke in the chat.
Yeah. Let me get my brother Blacksmith on the Brooklyn Bridge. You ready, Brother Black? He said, all right. Bronx is in here.
Peace to the fam. Peace to the fam. Resume. I just came in, so I just heard Tat. Oh, what's up? What's up, Tat? Peace, Sister Keisha. I don't know where Sister Mama went, but I see her avatar. Peace to the panel. Peace to those out there listening.
I'm right here. I'm listening.
Okay, I'm in. Y'all go ahead. Go for it.
Okay. So, the world has spoken. Marches took place all around the world in support of Ibrahim Traore and the people of Burkina Faso and the Sahel Alliance. Shout out to everybody who shows support and love. Let's play this real quick and we'll come right back.
Voilà, donc aujourd'hui, il y a assez de membres du gouvernement présents ici à cette place magnifique de la révolution de l'Orga du tout. Nous avons donc le ministre de l'Agriculture, Aura également.
The world has said, hands off our brother in Burkina Faso. Mind your business. Stay out of their business, and they'll stay out of your business. Period. And, you know, this is what we're talking about. This is what we're talking about. Shout out to my brother, Magnetic Peace Tyson. But this is what we're talking about. Showing up when it counts. Regardless, you want each other to win. Now, in that same vein, let's look at the reparations movement in the United States. What's happening in Haiti right now? What's happening in Trinidad right now? Where is the diaspora? The African continent in support of those things? Where are the marches across the country for those things? I'll wait. And this is why I say it is flawed. It is flawed in our understanding of it. Because if you look up the word Pan-Africanism, however way you wish to look it up, its principle is to benefit Africa, right? Pan-Africanism is a term for movements in Africa that have a common goal of unity, right? And the elimination of colonialism, right? Pan-Africanism is to benefit all of Africa. But what does that encompass? Does that encompass the rest of the diaspora? I don't see it. I don't see it. Now, like I said, I want all Black people to win, or we want all Black people to win on this platform. That's how we rock. But it's time to reciprocate. And I'm talking to the continent of Africa, because you owe a heavy debt. Just like the Yoruba, you too owe a heavy debt. And you have to make things whole. One thing I can say is that a lot of Africans who are YouTubers, TikTokers, and the like are putting out a lot of information about their role in the enslavement of the diaspora. And they are debunking a lot of previously thought information. And so I'm glad that I did stay quiet, because they're proving me to be right. They're proving us to be right. So we're going to play some clips. We're going to get into some things. Yes, we had the passing of Jawanza Kanjufu, Dr. Jawanza Kanjufu, who put in a lot of great work and scholarship on the behaviors of Black boys and, what's happening with them. And I think that, a lot of people who are raising sons in particular should pick up his works to help. Like Brother Taz said, he was the blueprint for therapy with his family. And that's another thing too. When researching your family history, you might need some therapy. You might, you might also find out that you came from a line of some serious fighters. that you came from a line of some serious businessmen and women. I know that I am. So, you never know. But I want to get into Africa's role, in particular West Africa, some tribes' role in the enslavement of African people. Like I said, our sister Brooke did an excellent job on her channel. And y'all should follow her, and her information is pinned in the description, so you can, along with the email writing campaign and petition for reparations. It is also in the description. Now, I know Brother Tad and Brother Anunnaki, they've been to Ghana and spent some quality time there, especially Brother Anunnaki, living there. But have you ever visited the Salaga slave market? I mean, they take you to the and all of that, but
You asking me, Sister Keisha?
both of you.
Not that I know of.
Now, is the Salaga slave market in Ghana? I'm trying to think, because I did visit a slave market that is there, that they sell a lot of animals, things like that, butchered animals. I'm not sure what the name was, because remember, for those who may not know, I've been there 4 times. I've been to the Elmina dungeons. That is another thing about language. I've been to the Elmina dungeons and dungeons of Cape Coast. I've been to Big Ada, Little Ada, the Volta region, of course, Accra, which is the capital, Kumasi, which is where the King's Palace Museum is. I've been all over there. I'm not sure if it's the same market, but I've been there. And what I was saying about language, real quick, Sister Keisha, and I'm passing the mic back, is when I'm in Ghana, they constantly call it the castle. Oh, go to the castle. But in the English language, what is a castle? A domicile, a place of luxury, a place where people of importance and royalty lives, right? Get the language right. It's the dungeons. It is the dungeons. Because the enslaver lived in the castle. We were down in the basement shackle, the dungeons. And until we get the language right, we always gonna have the conversation, the thought processes behind it wrong. And that's why I say we gotta change the language, and so much is rhetoric, Sister Keisha. But I yield.
I think instead of saying dungeon and being all good with it, we should say what it truly is, a prison, right?
Yeah.
It was a prison. And, I haven't been in Ghana as of yet. But I think, again, like you were saying, Brother Tad, when we are using their language, everything sounds gorgeous. And when we start going back and really retracting and seeing the other side of their context of words, we can truly understand what it means. Our people, or peoples that were imprisoned in those places where the castles were, our people were underneath in the prisons, like Rikers Island, right? And I think people need to understand the parallel, because they say, oh, like you were saying, oh, did you go to the castle? And then you need to tell them, or we need to really be explicit. Oh, you want us to go visit the prison where your people, were held? And I think once we start commanding and controlling language, things will breathe freely.
I hope so. I hope so, because it's a lot. It's a lot, and we have been negating a lot of this history, but we shouldn't. And that is a problem with feel good history, and that's why I always tell you guys, that's dangerous. That's very dangerous, and oftentimes we, research and study history so that we can feel good about who we are as a people, and as of course you should. But if you don't study all of it, and leave out certain particulars, it can be very dangerous. And that has led us to the point we are now. not understanding tribal wars and tribal beefs. I always say that you have to study mistakes. That's how we got into the predicament that we're in with tribal beefs, and it's folding that way again. So we want to eliminate what could be a destruction of more people. Yeah. Brother Kev says all information needs to be updated to 21st century language. Yes. And of course, we live in a technological age and information is becoming more and more readily available. And so it usurps previously scholarship. And you can't negate that. We got to run with it. So let's talk about this slave market real quick, and we'll get into the video that Sister Brooke did. So again, this slave market is an 18th century slave market located on the eastern Ganja district of Savannah region of Ghana. During the transatlantic slave trade, Salaga served as an important market where slaves were transported to the coast for export. The market also served as outposts for the movement of slaves along the trans-Saharan routes. I won't get into all of this. Well, I should a little bit. From the 16th century, the Salaga was one of the leading market centers in West Africa. Salaga was founded by the Mandi leader, Yakapa de Wuya. Okay. In 16th century Ganja kingdom before being overrun by the Ashanti forces in 1744. During the Third Angola Ashanti War in 1874, the British defeat the Ashanti ended the Ashanti rule over Salaga. However, this coupled with British abolition of slavery in the Gold Coast in 1874 to 75 did not end the Salaga slave market practices in the Gold Coast. There were frequent caravans of slaves from Salaga to Kintampo slave market, then to southern or coastal areas. However, it was abolished in 1896 by Kedi Rachi. When Kedi Rachi took over, then slave caravans, some of which were ordered by slave raider Babatu, came there directly from Bolawa, Bonatuka. So again, it thrived. Now, I put in the chat a video of, and I'll do it again. I don't see why it didn't come up. I'll do it again. But a video that a young brother in Ghana, he's a content creator, and he went to the Salaga museum, and the tour guide was telling him that there were hundreds of thousands that went through that market. And he said, and I quote, "No white man has ever been there."
Yep.
So that was their trading amongst that themselves, period. So I'll put the link in. Say that again, Tad.
Had never been there, ever. Not until it was all said and done, slavery was abolished, and time moved on. Has a white person been there?
Yeah. Facts. So I'll put that in there. He has quite a few videos on the slave trade, and also he takes you to different museums. Another one where he takes you to a museum that's on the border of Ghana and Nigeria, and he talks about the Hausa and their slave markets. It's powerful. It's powerful to see. So anyway, you can find out more about this market at your leisure, but I would implore you to do so because it's very, very important in our understanding of how we got here, who all was involved, and who all we have to deal with. But and you don't leave, just like we don't leave house Negroes and raccoons. We don't leave them alone. We can't leave this alone either. And this is crazy. So I will, sister. I will. I'll drop that link again. I tried to put it in, but I'll do it again anyway. Give me a minute. But Sister Brooke, she did an excellent job last night. And it's a 3-hour piece. We ain't got all 3 hours, but we're going to break this up in different parts. And I want to start here for a particular reason. Again, I like to start from the end and work my way back. There's a reason for why I'm doing this. Let's play this clip and we'll come right back. Now, the name of the article that she's reading in this piece, it says, My Great-Grandfather, the Nigerian Slave Trader. My great-grandfather, the Nigerian slave trader. And that could be a reason why a lot of people don't want to research their history, because you never know what you're gonna find out. I'm gonna tell you. Anyway, let's play this, and we're gonna stop and play throughout this, and we'll discuss in between. So hold on, family. Let's play it.
That I had my friend explaining to me, I was just explaining the timeline of events. I had my friend come to me and explain to me, her experience on the slave dungeon tours. I had and then her, telling me to kind of, focus on my lineage here, because this is my family. And then I went searching for the slave tours myself on YouTube, and then I came across those videos. And then I just so happened to be I just read the comments on a post, and I just so happened to see somebody posted the name of this article, and it was so interesting to me, I had to read it. And the name of the article is called My Great-Grandfather, the Nigerian Slave Trader. Oh, honey, we bought it. And I've read this on IG before, on IG Live before, years ago. But I didn't go through the timeline of events like I'm going through now. Okay. So I'm going to warn you now, there's going to be a lot of names that I don't know how to pronounce, and I'm going to do my best. I'm not going to get them all right, and deal with it. My parents' home in Umuji's, Nigeria, stands on a hilly plot that has been in our family for more than 100 years. Traditionally, the Igbo people bury their dead among the living, and the ideal resting place for a man and his wives is on the premises of their home. My grandfather, Erasmus, the first Black manager of Bata Shoe Factory in Aba, is buried under what is now the visitors' living room. My grandmother Helen, who established a local church, is buried near the study. My umbilical cord is buried on the grounds, as are those of 4 of my siblings. My eldest brother Namdi was born while my parents were studying in England. In the early 1970s, my father Chuck Woolmer preserved the dried umbilical cord, and 18 months later brought it home to bury it in the front gate. Down the hill near the river, in an area now overrun by bush, is the grave of my most celebrated ancestor, my great-grandfather, Nwabini Ogogo Ariaku. Nwabini Ogogo was a slave trader who gained power and wealth by selling other Africans across the Atlantic. He was a renowned trader, my father told me proudly. He dealt in palm, produce, and human beings, child. Long before Europeans arrived, Igbos enslaved other Igbos as punishment for crimes, for payment of debts, and prisoners of war. The practice differed from slavery in the Americas. Slaves were permitted to move freely in their communities and to own property, but they were also sometimes sacrificed in religious ceremonies or buried alive with their masters to serve them in the next life. When the transatlantic, they didn't believe they owned you just in this life. And that's, so they sit there and try to be like, oh, it wasn't like, American slavery. No, you believe you own them in this life and the next. Excuse me. American slavery, at least when you die, you were free. You slavery in Nigeria, you ain't even free when you're dead. Lord have mercy. When the transatlantic trade began in the 15th century, the demand for slaves spiked. Igbo traders began kidnapping people from distant villages. Sometimes a family would sell off a disgraced relative, a practice that Okoro, a professor of Igbo history at the University of Nigeria, Suka, likens the shipping of British convicts to penal colonies in Australia. People would say, let them go. I don't want to see them again. Between the 15th and 19th centuries, nearly 1.5 million Igbo slaves were sent across the Middle Passage. My great-grandfather was given the nickname Nwabini, which means from the bony port region, because he had the bright skin and healthy appearance associated at the time with people who lived near the coast and had access to rich foreign foods. This became our family name. So again, you see these names, it just came from where they was living at. So don't come for me and my name that my family has had since the 1700s. Okay, that I know about. That's just what I know about. So don't come for me and my name. And y'all making y'all names up from wherever region y'all come from, just like everybody else. Anyway, this became our family name. In the late 19th century, he carried a slave trading license from the Royal Niger Company, an English corporation that ruled southern Nigeria. His agents captured slaves across the region and passed them to middlemen who brought them to the ports of Boni Calabar and sold them to white merchants. Slavery had already been abolished in the United States and the United Kingdom, but his slaves were legally shipped to Cuba and Brazil. So. The United States and the UK was like, you know what? We're going to stop doing this. And they were like, oh, no. So they're going to do it to where? So they were still going to Cuba and Brazil. He said, can't stop, won't stop. To win his favor, local leaders gave him their daughters in marriage. By his death, he had dozens of wives. His influence grew, so when he's sitting here, kidnapping people and selling them into slavery and everything, and as a reward from the town, they give them their daughters. No wonder nobody came to look for us. No wonder nobody came to find us, because that's something I always wondered, I remember one time I had went to a party with a bunch of dudes that were, of African descent, straight from Africa. They were African. I was, partying with them. And, they were like asking me questions like, why do we look for Black people wherever we go? And I was like, because we have to make sure that, that we're good, because we know that, you don't want to be out here but slipping by yourself with these folks. So you always going to look around and see where your backup is at. And I was like, I guess you don't really feel like that because you come from a country where it is all of you. And then I said, well, let me ask the question. I said, how come y'all never came to look for us? How come y'all never came to get us? Y'all never demanded y'all people back. Y'all why is that? And I was like, why didn't y'all come get us? If the story is the way they saying it is, why? And I didn't get no answer. I'll tell you that much. I ain't get no answer. So back to this. Slavery had already been abolished in the United States and the United Kingdom, but his slaves were legally shipped to Cuba and Brazil. To win his favor, local leaders gave him their daughters by marriage. They said, yeah, you kidnapping the whole, whatchamacallit, let me just give you my daughter. By his death, he had dozens of wives. His influence drew the attention of colonial officials who appointed him who appointed him Chief Umejis and several other chief of Umejis and several other towns. He presided over court cases, set up churches and schools. He built a guest house on the land. I'm sure that was like not his. I'm sure that was the colonial officials, you know, that told him to set up churches and schools. He built a guest house on the land where my parents' home now stands and hosted British dignitaries to inform him of their impending arrival and verify their identities. Guests sent him envelopes containing locks of their Caucasian hair. Yeah, I wonder what he was doing with that hair. Who knows? Anyway, funeral rites for a distinguished Igbo man traditionally include the slaying of livestock, usually as many cows as the family can afford. Ogogo was so esteemed that when he died, a leopard was killed and 6 slaves were buried alive with him. 6 slaves. Oh. So this is not the white folks. These are the Nigerians. These are the black people. These are the people that are telling us to like come home and whatnot. Anyway, they killed and 6 slaves were buried alive with him. My family inherited his canvas shoes, which he wore at a time when few Nigerians owned footwear, and the chains of his slaves, which were so heavy that as a child, my father could hardly lift them. So he also inherited the chains. Throughout my upbringing, my relatives gleefully recounted Ogogo's exploits. When I was about 8, my father took me to see the row of ogaba trees where Ogogo kept his slaves chained up. In the 1960s, a family friend who taught history at a university in UK saw that Nwabini Ogogo's name mentioned in a textbook about the slave trade. Even my cousin who lived abroad learned that we had made it into the history book. Last year, I traveled from Abuja, where I live, to Umuji's for my parents' 46th wedding anniversary. My father is the oldest man in his generation and the head of our extended family. One morning, a man arrived at our gate from a distant Anglican church that was celebrating its centenarian. Its record shows I'm having a hard time with that word, celebrating its centenary. There we go. Its records showed that Ogogo had given an armed escort to the first missionaries in the region, a trio known as the Kuki brothers, to ensure their safety. The man invited my father to receive an award for Ogogo's work spreading the gospel. I'm sure. After the man left, let me say hi to some people. Let's see. 2018. She's already sweating. In 2018, what you think she's doing right now in 2025? And she see how far we getting with our reparations, huh? Yeah, she's sweating. But I knew I couldn't have loaded dishes without help from Africans like my great-grandfather. I read arguments for paying reparations to the descendants of American slaves and wondered whether someone might soon expect my family to contribute. Other members of my generation felt similarly unsettled. My cousin Chidi, who grew up in England, was 12 years old when he visited Nigeria and asked our uncle for the meaning of our surname. He was shocked to learn our family's history and has been reluctant to share it with his British friends. My cousin Chioma, a doctor in Lagos, told me that she feels anguish when she watches movies about slavery. I cry and ask God to forgive our ancestors. The British tried to end slavery among the Igbo in the early 1900s through the practice though the practice persisted into the 1940s. Understand, into the 1940s. So when they talking about, that's around the time they got their independence, isn't it? Didn't they get their independence like in the 50s? In the early years of abolition, by British recommendation, masters adopted their freed slaves into their extended families. One of the slaves who joined my family was Nakawa. Oh, I can't. Nwakankwo. Nwakwankwo. I might be close. A convicted murderer from another village who chose slavery as an alternative to capital punishment and eventually became Nwabani Ogogo's most trusted manservant. In the 1940s, after my great-grandfather was long dead, Nwankanko was accused of attempting to poison his heir, Igbo Kui, in order to steal a plot of land. My family sentenced him to banishment from the village. When he heard the verdict, he ran down the hill, flung himself on Ogogo's grave, and wept, saying that my family had once given him refuge and was now casting him out. Eventually, my ancestors allowed him to remain, but instructed all their freed slaves to drop our surname and choose new names. If they had been behaving better, they would have been accepted, my father said. The descendants of freed slaves in southern Nigeria called Ohu. Now, I still to this day have heard no one outside of this article refer to these people, the Ohus and the Osus. Now, I haven't really asked anyone, but I definitely would like to know, where are these people today? Or maybe they're trying to hide. If they're trying to hide, if the Ohus and the Osus is trying to hide and they don't want, their lineage to be brought up, then fine. That's one thing. But I'm very curious because let's read on. The descendants of freed slaves in southern Nigeria called Ohu still face significant stigma. Igbo culture forbids them from marrying freeborn people and denies them traditional leadership titles such as Eze and Ozu. The Osu, an untouchable caste, descended from slaves who served at shrines, face even more persecution. So there's an Ohu class. They can't marry freeborn people. And then the Osu are so untouchable. And they were the ones who served at the shrines. I guess maybe they're the ones who have to die with the master as well. And that they face even more persecution. My father considers the Ohu in our family a thorn in our side. So they have Ohus. So that's just the regular ones, not the lower caste slaves. Right. They got castes within slavery. Ain't that like God? Look, this is diabolical. My father considers the Ohu in our family a thorn in our side, constantly in opposition to our decisions. In 1980s, during a land dispute with another family, two Ohu family testified in court. They hate us, my father said. No matter how much money they have, they still have a slave mentality. My friend Ugo, whose family had a similar disagreement with its Ohu members, told me the dissension is coming from all these people with borrowed blood. I first became aware of the Ohu when attending boarding school in Owerri. I was interested to discover that another new student family came from Umijis, though she told me that they hardly ever visited home. It seemed from our conversations that we might be related. Not an unusual discovery in a large family, but exciting nonetheless. When my parents came to visit, I told them about the girl. My father quietly informed me that we were not blood relatives. She was Ohu, the granddaughter of Nwankwanko. I'm not sure if the revelation meant much to me at the time. The girl and I remained friendly, though we rarely spoke again about our family. But in 2000, another friend named Ugona was forbidden from marrying a man she had dated for years because her family found out that he was Osu. So he was the low class, the ones who was at the temple or whatever they call it. Afterward, an Osu friend named Noni told me that growing up knowing that her ancestors were slaves was sort of like having a boogeyman around. Recently, and see, that's how they want us to feel, but we don't. And it makes them mad. It makes everybody mad. They want us to feel like, you know, but we don't. We see the BS that y'all be doing to us. Yeah, we see it, but we're not gonna sit in the corner and cry about it. No, we're gonna do something about it. Boogeyman around. Recently, I spoke to Nwan Nai, a 39-year-old Ohu member of my family. The way you people behave as if we are inferior, she said. Her parents kept their Osu ancestry secret from her until she was 17. Although our families were neighbors, she and I rarely interacted. There was a day you saw me and asked me why I was bleaching my skin. And she said, I was very happy because you spoke to me. I went to my mother and told her, you and I are sisters. That is how sisters are supposed to behave. So now, and this is something that I said the last time I read this, now we see that there are certain classes of people that are bleaching their skin to get out of their class. She thinks that if she bleaches that can bleach her out of being an Ohu. She can bleach out of being an Osu. She wasn't an Osu, but she was just a, so I'm like I said, you know, you see all of this bleaching going on, and it lends a new dynamic in Nigeria now. In Jamaica, I don't know what is going on there. They just bleaching.
All right. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. We coming back, family. We are back. We are back. So this is the first segment. So we're going to go right back and discuss it because it's a point in this letter that she's reading, this article rather, that Sister Brooke is reading, where the author makes the same commentary about consciousness that Garvey said. So we're going to get back into that, but I want to hear the panel's thought on Sister Brooks' reading of this article so far. Sister Marcia, because we was in a private chat. Sister Marcia had a lot going on. Go ahead, Sister Marcia.
Sister Brooke is our young griot. I appreciate her style, right? She is very eloquent in her delivery system, and she has stars ahead of her. I claim it for her in advance. But this story is really very similar to many other stories. And I can say from my own family history, or her story, right? Because many of the stories that I hear from my family comes from my great mothers, that we support people, right? And this support may be just, for me, it's, we just support people. But for those people, they may be harboring other feelings and traits of this support, because there's something deeper and further back that I don't know of. And that's what I found really interesting in this article, because they can identify names. They have names to, there's Osu and Isu. There are names for the types of supports that are being given and the levels of attachments of those supports. But I have many relatives that, based on this article, would be considered Osus and Isus because they are not blood, but they are people that my family have supported, adopted, championed, and continue to bestow gratitude to. And in return, they do the same for us. So now I know way back when there was conversations of indentured servants or reste avec. They used to call them, or they do call them in Haiti. And that's similar. That's a similar process where someone remains in your household, you provide their descendants with education, with all types of tutelage so that they can be successful. But for them, it may seem as some type of capturism, right? And so these are things that I'm relearning about what my family, because I always saw my family as, oh, you're so benevolent. You do all these great things. But when you go through the stories and different people's circumstances, you can see how the story for you may be really twisted. You're seeing it as really kind and benevolent. And for someone else, it's like, no, I was here doing these things because I must. Like I didn't have a choice. And that's something I have to grapple with my own family. And I think this is, it's a really good dialogue and a really good place to start with. And I've been having this conversation with people in my family for the past 2 or 3 years on how you consider yourself, and were you considered a reste avec, or were you considered a part of the family? Like me at 3 years old, you're being my best friend, right? Were you forced to be my best friend, or were you actually my friend? And these are the things as you grow up is grappling with. Like she said, she had someone within the article. She had someone that lives close by that, they weren't close, but she knew them. And then that person is now bleaching themselves and trying to be accepted, when for me, as the, third party, I'm thinking you're already accepted. I accept you, but you didn't feel like that. And so it's something that we definitely, the entanglement of what happened to us is really deep and really needs to be dissected in different forms. For me, I view people as great and beautiful people that I grew up with, people that appreciated me, but I also knew that they did things for me that I didn't have to do. Like, oh, hands off. You just relax to take care of that. And that could have been a problem.
Got you. Brother Blacksmith, your thoughts on what you've heard so far in the article. Did you learn anything that you did not know before?
Well, living in Africa for the time that I did live there, gives me a totally different perspective on most of what we think about what being African is, and so on and so forth. I've met people there. One time I went into a shop. I'm gonna give you an example. One time I went into a shop, and I met a guy. He was Ashanti, and he struck me. He was an herbalist as well, and he told me when he met me, and I was African American, not from that side, and he told me that he feel bad because his grandfather's name was, I want to say, Muhammad, which means the father of slaves or something like that. I don't remember the exact. It was a while ago, but he told me that, and I'm like, well, brother, I mean, if you live in your life and you know you live in your life in a good way, then you don't have to pay for his sins, because if you weren't participating in that, then you don't have to feel that way, and we can be brothers. That's all I'm looking for. I'm not looking for, for you to overreach or for you to, sell me out. And so when I hear what Sister Brooks said and some of the things that I'm hearing on the show as well, it's really profound, because we come in full circle, especially based off the Traore piece. The when I came in, I didn't hear anything before that because I was previously engaged. So it's like we're coming full circle, and everything is coming together. And I believe that those of us here and those of us over there, as well as in the diaspora, in the Caribbean especially, are starting to form like Voltron, where the best of the best are all going to come together and F the rest. So that's what I get from this comment. I hope I'm not deviating from where you wanted to go, but that's what I got from all this.
No, you're
that,
not. You're not. It falls in line with where we're moving in the second half. I just want to get Brother Tad thoughts real quick. Sister Marcia Brooks said that was real deep. But go ahead, Brother Tad.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to make this brief as possible. Thank you, Sister Brooke. Thank you, Sister Keisha, for that. Because in my development and learning about our story as enslaved people from Africa coming here, when I heard that Africans sold us, I thought it was just rhetoric because I didn't have this information accessible. And then I've learned the rhetoric of, yeah, the slavery on the continent was different. It wasn't slavery, it was servitude. And they didn't do to us what white people did to us. Our slavery wasn't brutal like white people. But when you burying people alive, I don't think it get more brutal than that. So again, I don't think enough of our folks have this information because we're supposed to build on new information. Once we get new information, we're supposed to pivot. Now, as a person who's been to Africa a few times and they want to welcome home the lost children, I find it ironic that to go see the chief, you got to take 2 bottles of whiskey and a couple of $100 just to sit and speak with them. But this is how you're receiving
Hold
your
on,
lost
Tad. Hold on. Is that done today? Is this what you're saying? This is what you have to do today?
No, this is what Brother Tad went through. I don't know what nobody else went to. I'm speaking about Brother's Tad personal experience. Some people may not have went through that. I was asked over there, my mulatto. It's like, but the point I'm trying to make, like I said, I'm not going to make this too long, but I do want to bring home the point that if we're going to be honest, we're going to be thorough over here, and we're going to tell the truth as we see it, because we could be wrong. And this is the revelation of my era in the past, trying to justify what was done on the continent without having the full details and the context from the people who perpetrated it, rather their descendants. So again, when we talk about our position here being a unique group of people, just don't disrespect and deny us our truth, is what I'm saying. Hear these people telling you they kicked us out, and we know we got done dirty once we got over here. But now that the spirit of the fighters, the resilient of the spirit of those fighters, we're the descendants of those who would not die, people are still giving us resistance as if we're not going to fight back and push back. But I yield my time, sis.
Thank you. I'm gonna refrain from my commentary because I'm go heavy, but I'm a whole lot because as Sister Marcia said, it is a bigger picture than we actually think, right? But the end of this picture or movie should be a greater outcome for us, That's what it has to be. And I don't care where you live at in the diaspora. If you in Brazil, if you in India, if you're in the Caribbean, if you're in South America or North America or Central America, and your lineage goes back to these folks, yeah, I'm not of a forgiving nature. Like I said, because researching my own family's history, yeah, I'm gonna save that comment. Let's get back into Sister Brooks' reading.
Hold on, Sister Keisha, before you go back to Brooke, what I want to say though is the spirit of those people still exists. Those are the people that are in the rooms trying to stop our reparations. And I just had to.
Wait, hold on, Tad. I'm going off what Sister Brooks said. Her comment flashed real fast. She said she can wait. So, in other words, she wanting you to go in on what you was just saying, Sister Keisha, in particular.
I'm a refrain. I'm gonna be good. I'm gonna be good because I want to, because this is gonna be a 3-part series, because we're also gonna show you some African professors who are gonna give you some powerful information to confirm what our sister has been saying. Again, I dropped the link for that video for the Salaga slave market. There it is. It's on YouTube. It's on Facebook. And for those few of you who are in Twitch, it is there as well. So you guys can click it and save it in history so you can watch it later. Let's get back into this reading and we'll come right back and we'll discuss. Hold on.
But here in Nigeria, it does add a different layer to it. Modernization is emboldening the Ohu and freeborn to intermarry despite the threat of ostracization. I know communities where people of slave descent have become affluent and have started demanding the right to hold positions. Professor Okoro told me it is creating conflict in many communities. Last year in a town in Enugu State, an Ohu man was appointed to traditional leadership positions, sparking mass protests. In a nearby village, an Ohu man became the top police officer, giving the local Ohu enough influence to push reform. Eventually, they were apportioned a separate section of the community where they can live according to whatever laws they please, away from the freeborn. It will probably be a long time before all traces of slavery disappear from the minds of the people. G.T. Basden, a British missionary who wrote of the Igbo in 1929, until the conscience of the people functions. Until the conscience of the people functions, the distinctions between the slave and the freeborn will be maintained. So he's saying that their conscience is not working. And that's why it's a hot mess over there. That's basically what he's saying. And I have to agree. Come on now.
Go ahead. Go ahead. What did Garvey say? What did Garvey say? The consciousness ain't working. It ain't working. And you hear it again in this article. Again, let's get back into it. We'll come back and discuss. Hold on.
1940, and the people are still going through this today. No wonder they're let's take a look at that. They are, no wonder they're cool with coming here and join, not all of them, because obviously my friend who sat there told me the truth and hugged me and told me, to focus on my family and my lineage. She's definitely not one of them. And most of my friends, I'm going to say, my friends are not people that are like, or that are, I don't know, that are not trying to fight. Let's put it that way, right? Or at least see what's going on. I don't have people around me who have weird thought patterns. Let's put it like that. White supremacy leaning. You know what I mean? Like that wouldn't really work in a friendship with me, because you would get really annoyed with me. Like you wouldn't like me. And I wouldn't like you. So I don't have friends like that. But to people who even she realizes are in her country and in her ethnic group. Even she realized that in her ethnic group are people who are not with us. And those that are not with us, it's easy to see how they just translated what they're doing to their Ohu and their Osus to us over here. Why they join with white supremacists? They consider themselves right on the same line with the white supremacists. They don't see themselves with us. We are lower than them. We are beneath them. The white supremacists are on their level. That's how they looking at it. I'm gonna read that quote again. T. Basden, a British missionary, wrote of the Igbo in 1921, until the conscience of the people functions, the distinction between slave and freeborn will be maintained. Now, it's crazy for a British person to write that about you because they don't have no conscience either. But I do find maybe he finds it extraordinarily interesting because you all look the same. He's trying to figure out why y'all doing that to your own people. He's trying to figure it out. Why y'all let us do this to you? Y'all truly ain't got no conscience. When the sick and the deplorable are telling you ain't got no conscience, I mean, man. Agogo was believed to have acquired spiritual powers from the shrine of a deity named Njoku, which allowed him to wield influence over white colonists. Among his possessions, which are passed down to the head of the family, was a symbol of his alliance with Njoku, a pot containing a human head. You had to cut the head straight into the pot while the person was still alive, without it touching the floor, my father said. It couldn't be just anybody's head. It had to be someone you knew. In Nwabiani's in Ogogo's case, this someone was most likely a slave. When Gilbert, my great uncle, had a previous head of our family died in 1989, his second wife, Nyenya, a devout Christian, destroyed the pot. Shortly after, her children began to die mysterious deaths, one after another. And Nina contracted a strange ailment and died in 2009. Some relatives began to fear that dark forces had been unleashed. Last July, my father's cousin Sonny, a professor of engineering, visited my parents to discuss another concern: a growing enmity in our family. Minor arguments had led relatives to stop speaking to one another. Several had become estranged from the family. We have always had a major disagreement or division or the other, my father's cousin Samuel told me. My cousin Izugo was not surprised by the worrying trend. Across Igbo land, wherever there was slave trade with white people, things never go well, he said. See, they are well aware of the karma that they put out into the world. They come, and once again, this is not all. I started the conversation talking about my friend and how she's an ally, and she is definitely from Nigeria and is a Nigerian. So not all. But the ones that ain't with us, okay? The ones that ain't with us. You know, they're constantly, talking about what we got going on over here, but they play dumb, but they are very well aware this is something that they're saying in their country. They always have problems there. Everyone has noticed this. This is something that they are well aware of, and they're pretending that when they come here, they act like they don't know. They know. They have bad karma because they sold us. My relatives thought that our history was coming back to haunt us. Prior to colonization, the Igbo believed that spiritual forces controlled events. If enough misfortune piled up, a family might come to believe that it was the victim of intergenerational curse, resulting from the actions of an ancestor. Family members would seek out a juju priest who would consult a deity, diagnose the root of the curse, and then expel it through a religious ritual. When foreign missionaries arrived, they persuaded the Igbos to embrace Christianity, openly at least. But belief in ancestral curses has remained, cloaked in Bible passages that refer to God visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation. Many churches now offer similar services similar to the old rituals, in which a pastor replaces the juju priest and Jesus replaces the pagan god. This way, evil forces can be exposed without Christians engaging in idolatry. Deliverance usually requires a family to pray, fast, and renounce atrocities. In 2009, the late priest Stephen Njoku wrote a book called Challenge and Deal with Your Evil. Guys, and Deal with Your Evil Foundations, in which he argued that some people should change their names to rid themselves of curses. So now, again, as people try to tell us, foundational Black Americans, about how our names don't mean anything and we don't know who we are because we don't have these names. Look here. Looks like your names may be the source of your curse. Them names that y'all sitting there waving over our heads like a badge of honor that we don't have, right? Now they saying you should rid yourself of the name because the name is cursed. So maybe, we have new names. Now we don't carry, imagine if we carried the names of the people who sold us. I don't want your name. Keep your name. You want to sit here and talk about that? Keep your name, okay? I've had, my family has had this name since the 1700s. Like I said, I know that for sure. So you keep your name. They should change their names to rid themselves of curses. It's like building a house, he told me. If you don't get the foundations right, if you use substandard materials, or if the stones were not laid properly, the building will inevitably develop cracks and collapse. So starting from your name, you're cursed.
I want to pause it there for a second because I want to get into some of the information that the doctor was talking about. Let me get us back on the team. But I want to get to some of the information that the professional was talking about. I just wanted y'all to see that this all transpired from a conversation that Sister Brooke was having with a Nigerian friend of hers, right? And, this Nigerian friend embraced her, hugged her, and said, embrace who you are, forget about them. Take care of you and move on from there because, it wasn't as great as you may think it is. So I want us to look at what the doctor's saying and we'll come right back and we'll continue next week. But I just wanted to stop the reading actually there because, like I said, I like to work backwards. We're going to go back to something prior to her reading next week. But let's play this, and we gotta hear from a professional, Dr. What's her name? Pesby, I believe, Dr. Pesby, in his older interview. But we'll come right back and we'll discuss.
Every day, that would be great. But at least send one email to these legislators about the unconstitutional, illegal reparations to get ready. Anna, we are trying to make peace and atone for what our ancestors did. On the final day, my relatives strolled along about the slavery in Ghana, okay? And so just to reiterate what tonight was about, I was just explaining my journey to why I kind of turned my back on Pan-Africanism, why there was one time in my life you would have seen me with African earrings and, some kind of African print clothing, some cowrie shell rings, and now you ain't seeing that. You ain't never gonna see that again. Now my earrings are the United States. As a matter of fact, I make these, you know what I mean? Now my earrings are the United States. And my jewelry is more Native American centered or even earth centered or something. I definitely ain't wearing no cowrie shells ever again in my life, child. They sold us for cowrie shells, so they could keep those. I don't never want them again, okay? So, things like that. So that's what this was all about. I started explaining to you how I went down the rabbit hole or, with the slave dungeons and everything like that. So, Vanishing Acne by Even Melanin focuses on disinfection without dehydrating the entire face. And a dry face leads to fine lines and wrinkles. We don't do fine lines at Even Melanin. Not only is it pH balanced to skin's natural antibacterial levels, its low pH creates the optimal environment for my 5 favorite ingredients: collagen, retinol, vitamin C, hyaluronic acid, and caffeine. The Vanishing Acne set offers max hydration without clogging your pores, supplying all the sustenance needed for healthy skin, from the epidermis to the dermis. Vanishing Acne at evenmelanin.com.
Before, after.
So let's get started. We are continuing with our researcher from Ghana, who is going to go into some of the oral histories that she was able to collect in Ghana about what people remember of slavery. Let's just get right into it. Talk about, I wasn't taught. I didn't know. They remember. Their people remember. They have the stories of their family members, because you all these people being taken, like, you don't remember somebody, all these people going missing. You just, as a collective, the whole country just never worried about where these people went. So when they sit there and they talk about they don't know, they never learned, they remember.
So the memory is still real, and people are very reluctant to talk about it because it brings up some kind of unpleasant memories sometimes. And I think another reason why is because there were 2 aspects to enslavement in Ghana and in most Africa. There was what I'll call an internal aspect.
Before we even get here, I wrote some notes, right? That there was a part where, or I've heard, I think it was a part in the other video, but if not, I've definitely heard someone say before that when we, as, they call us African Americans, but we're foundational Black Americans. So when we as foundational Black Americans reached the slave castle or the dungeon in Nigeria, how we cry. And he said, yeah, matter of fact, that was the dungeon in Nigeria, the first video that we watched. And he said that when we reach the dungeons that we cry because we realize we're African. No, 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 no. Honey, you are mistaken. We are not crying. And this is why I have no interest in going to these places, because we are not crying because we realize we're African. We're crying because we realize how you betrayed us. We're crying because we realize how deep y'all was really involved. We're crying because, you know, especially people who do things like, you know, go to Africa and try to learn their history, you know, we had a very idealistic Wakanda, before Wakanda view of Africa. You know, it's like that absent parent that, you know, you in your head, you make up this whole scenario on who this person is, you know, and then reality hits you and who they really are. And they really didn't love you. That they weren't fighting to get you back. This is a very accurate analogy. They weren't fighting to get you back. They wasn't looking for you. They wasn't putting posters around the neighborhood trying to find you. As a matter of fact, it's like having a crack mama who sold you for crack. And you realize that that's your mom. That's how we feel. That's how I felt when I was watching these tours. I didn't cry because I realized I was African. I cried because I realized I wasn't. Catch that tea. I cried because I realized all of this time that I am not. And they know that I am not. Let me put her back on, okay? I just wanted to say that because, yeah. Let's put, when I tell you this lady, and Sister Keisha sent this video to me, and this, you know, I've had the idea for this topic for years. But I don't know. I just never just went through with it. And I just really felt like, okay, this is the time for it, because people need to understand, you know, there's a lot of testosterone flying around, the FBA diaspora, you know, situation. And I'm here for the testosterone, okay? I'm here for it. But I thought that I would just give a different view for those who want to hear, you know, why we would do what we're doing, you know, just from a feminine view, okay, from a feminine view, and one from love, because it all started with my friend loving me enough, my Nigerian friend loving me enough to tell me the truth of her history and mine. So, you know, so this is just a view, a different view, and I think maybe, I hope maybe it'll help quiet things down a bit, but I probably not, because, you know, trolls are trolls. You know what I mean? But maybe, you know, one or two people will get a better understanding. Okay, but let's just hear this lady because she breaks it on down. So yes, and when Sister Keisha sent me this video, I knew, I was like, boom, this is the cherry on top. This is, because like I said, I had seen the other videos years ago. You know, I had the encounter with my friend years ago. I'm talking like 5, like maybe like 3, 4, 5 years ago. At least, I think it's more like 4 or 5 years ago. And the article, but this video, I just, Sister Keisha just sent this to me a few days ago, late last week. She sent me this video, and that's when she sent this to me, I was like, boom, that's the ancestors. So here's the topic. So let me play her. This is amazing. Let's get it.
Or what people call an indigenous aspect of enslavement. And then there was an external aspect, that is enslavement between Africa and the outside world, either with the Mediterranean or Red Sea, Indian Ocean world, or with the Atlantic world. And because of this, we still have some memories about both enslavement, especially the indigenous one, because where do you draw the line? There are some families during my research who were reluctant to talk because they could remember that their great-grandfathers, great-grandmothers had brought slaves from Salaga Market, made them part of the household. And therefore, if we are going to now start tracing genealogies, who comes from where, who comes from there, it starts creating problems. So some of them don't want to talk about it.
Okay, you heard that? She said some of them don't want to talk about it because if you start talking about it, you know, people were brought into, now in Ghana, things were a little different. Now, we learned yesterday what slavery was like in Nigeria. And now we are learning about slavery in Ghana. So in Ghana, those that were not sold to white people were brought into the family. So they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to start digging around because then that's going to start revealing that certain people are not blood relatives. Now, we learned yesterday that in Nigeria, they were calling them, they said they had borrowed blood. So, but in Ghana, it's a little bit different. So they don't really want to talk about it. So this is part of the reason why, you know, everything is hush, hush, because it doesn't just affect the diaspora when it comes to slavery. It affects, they have remnants of slavery still in the country. And they don't want to kick that dirt up. Let's keep going.
A few of the people I talked to in the
Hey, Sankofa. Sankofa.
And so on. And a friend was telling me that in a certain part of the northern country, a place called Sandema, every year when they have a festival, they bring out certain artifacts connected with enslavement. And they've ritualized it to the extent that nobody will tell you about it until the festival is on. And then you find them bringing chains and bangles and so on, and virtually worshiping them in memory of what they went through during enslavement. And that was an area where there was a lot of slave raiding going on, slave kidnapping during the period of enslavement. And then on the coastal parts of the country, there were a few cases of depopulation. The picture of the past enslavement in Ghana or Africa is one in which you find different means of acquiring slaves. I can identify about 5 major means of acquisition. The first was through warfare, and that was really a major means of acquisition. Now, I don't think we want to enter into that debate whether the wars were fought because of enslavement or enslavement was incidental to the wars, because there's still a disagreement. But what I have found in my own research as I talk to chiefs, elders, and so on, is that enslavement was incidental to the wars which were fought in Ghana. In other words, the wars were not expressly fought because they wanted to catch slaves, but there were several reasons for warfare: expansion, conquest, retaliation, aggression, and so on. And if you look through the history of the world from ancient times, you find that it was a practice that whenever you engage in a war and you became victorious, you take away prisoners of war. And inevitably, these prisoners of war became enslaved as a result. So it became an ancient practice which was carried on through the modern period. And so if you look at Ghana history and African history, from about the 15th century to the 19th, early 19th century, you find warfare as one major means of enslavement. And it's very striking, especially when we come to Atlantic enslavement, because although warfare was a source of enslavement for both internal and external, you find that the external demand was so high that warfare played a very major role in it. And if you read some of the travelers' accounts and traders' memoirs, you find them mentioning sometimes that in the early 1700s, for example, there was a gentleman called Barbot, a French trader, and he said he had combed the whole of the coastline in Ghana and found only 8 slaves from east to west. But 2-3 weeks earlier, because there was warfare, somebody had gotten about 200 to 300 slaves. And you find them expressing these things in their memoirs as you read. And they seem to be sad that there is no war, so.
Pause right there. So she was going on saying that how, one of the ways that they were able to pick up slaves was they would, through war, prisoners of war. Hi, E.T. York. Hi, Mr. Trade.
Okay. All right. We back. So now you've got a foundation, if you will, of enslaving folks from the coast of Africa. The role that Nigeria and both Ghana played in the role of our ancestors' enslavement, or some of them, I suppose. But this Dr. Purby, she goes into the Salaga market. That's what she was talking about. So the link is in the chat. I want y'all to watch that because next week we're going to discuss it even further. So the documentary that I put in the chat for you all to watch, the brother goes into great detail about this market, and he goes on a tour of this market. And when you see the wells that these people had to dig for miles and miles and miles, I mean, there's a tree where they have bronze statues that are depicting formerly enslaved captives. And when you see these things, it blows your mind. Now, they would, rough them up or whatever, and then a lot of them will get harmed because of the chains and the shackles that they were wearing, in particular in that hot African heat. But you're going to see in that video clip, they're going to take the brother into what you would call a waiting room that they packed these people in. And, when they got scarred up, they just gave them shea butter to rub on the wounds. And you're going to see old cup of shea butter that was left behind, and he digs into it, and he's saying it's just not, the dirt is just not on the surface. It goes deep into it. So we come to the end of our program. I can't wait to get back to next week. It's going to really blow y'all mind. I just wanted to give you a foundation because we're going to unpack the myths and the foolishness that, we've been hearing for quite some time. And again, these are all African scholars. These are all African documentarians and, streamers. From the continent. Facts that are giving you this information. And the brother link that I put in the chat, he has several Not just talking about Ghana, but he got several videos that you guys would enjoy. Brother Black, your final thoughts and comments.
Great show, panel. Thank y'all for having me once again. Life is busy for me, so that's why I've been coming in late, but I'm going to try to do better next week. Heavy topic. It weighs on my heart as someone who lived in Africa, in Ghana in particular. And but through my travels and through my living and through my witnessing of life, I'm convinced that we are not the same people. That would get too heavy if I got into that right now. But I've previously said, I had a master teacher who once taught me that Africans are from Sirius X and we are from Sirius B. So we're cousins. We don't emanate from them, and that's why our natures are totally different. We have similarities, don't get it twisted, but we're not the same people. And so this is why a lot of the differences is between us and why they ain't never ride for us when we was getting, shit kicked back in our asses, if you will. So with that said, I don't want to take too long because I didn't hear the whole conversation and I don't want to say anything out of pocket. If Sister Marcia's next, I'll pass the mic and I'll see y'all next week on the bridge early. Peace.
Black, you dig tonight. I ain't have to hit you with the womp.
I'm just sorry I didn't hear about Spain. But thank you, Brother Black, for the wonderful intro. All I want to say is that the wounds cut deep. And when we look at them from different angles, you'll always see that, unfortunately, we are part of someone's wound. So the aspect of healing is definitely acknowledge that I cut a wound for someone or I healed a wound from someone. I hope that we on this panel, we on this platform, we who will listen a million years from now are going to be healers and really think about and consider about the longevity of things that our ancestors may have done, unbeknownst to them, because again, capitalism and wealth and riches is a real good danglement, right? Like, oh, you could have the biggest crown, you could have the biggest this, and people fall for that. And you have to just really look at the macro of it all, on what is the biggest thing that you fall for, and you fall for it, and how that affects your family's life. But on today's topic of decolonizing gardening, today is the great Kuze Zakara's Day, and it is a veneration day for gardeners and people who work on farms, and understanding that without a farm, you cannot eat. Remember that you need to eat, and you need to eat healthy. So support your local farmers if you have them. Compost, do anything that's going to help farmers farm, or start a little greenhouse. Plant a tomato seed. You still have time to, get a tomato in 9 weeks. So just consider all of those things. Everything is everything. Life is tough. History is even tougher, but learning from history, being able to assimilate the truth from the masters, and whoever the master is that's giving you the truth, assimilate that truth, bring it forth for you and for your family, and you'll be great. So if you can't make time flourish, make it flourish. Fight with it. Do what you got to do. But it is on our side. Time.
Thank you, sister. Thank you. I just want to say this was a dope revelation. It crushes the cognitive dissonance that many of us have based on, my favorite word, rhetoric. Because what I realized in my decades within the movement, a lot of things people say, they don't substantiate it. It's just things we repeat. Since master teacher or doctor such and such says this, that, and the third, we regurgitate it as if their mouth is a prayer book. But nothing's better than having knowledge yourself, your own information, your own experience. I think something we've always promoted on this platform since me and Sister Keisha started close to 10 years ago. Sister Keisha, we've been doing this for a while. Find out your
When's
own
the anniversary party?
We don't even know. We just got to do the knowledge on it. We got to figure it out. Yeah, but we have been doing this for a long time, but our message has always been consistent. And if you didn't know, you would think me and Sister Keisha would be behind the scenes planning and plotting. It's because we're always locking step with one another with our growth. You know what I mean? Because one thing we've always said is do your own family history. That's something we said from the beginning. It's cool to know this ancestor Frederick Douglass, or ancestor Nat Turner, but who are your real direct bloodline ancestors? When we did the code of conduct years ago, what was that about? 8 years ago. We encourage people, find out who your ancestors are. Don't just pick up a book and venerate those ancestors. That's all well and good, but who's your direct bloodline? And celebrate that. And we don't see enough people do that. And we're glad folks are delineating now. But this is affirmation that me and Sister Keisha have been on the right path. And of course, with you two along as well, because we all been rocking at least 10 years, but now y'all are on the platform with us. We've had a relationship outside of this platform for over 10 years. You know what I mean? But I am so thankful to my direct ancestors and the creator that I know I'm moving in the right direction. Why? Because watching these documentaries, it's a revelation that I don't know what I always think I know, and there's always more to know, and there's always more room to grow. Like I constantly say, I know a lot more than I did 5 years ago, and I don't know half of what I'm gonna learn in the next 5 years. And on this platform, we learn so much, and I just want folks to, don't abandon your belief system, but give other people room to grow. I ain't saying you got to follow Brother Taz, Sister Keisha, Brother Black, Sister Marcia, but follow your own spirit. And don't try to discourage me from following mine. Don't jump on this platform and tell me I'm a Hebrew or whatever. Don't tell me I belong to no group other than the group I belong to. Real quick before I pass to Sister Keisha, right? Because this is how the bloodline works, right? My last name is Cromwell. That comes from my mother, but am I not a bookman like my father? But my father's name come from his father, but his mother was a canon. Am I not a canon like my father's mother? So we going up that family tree. Now my mother's father was a Cromwell, but my grandmother, my mother's mother, was a Lewis. That was her mother's married name. But before my great grandmother got married to Grandpa Sam, she was a Pierce. Am I not a Pierce? See all them different lineages and branches on the tree, all them different bloodlines. You can't come and tell me I'm just one singular thing. It takes at least 100 people to make one of us, each and every one of us. It takes a minimum of 100 people. We're not a monolithic group, and we really got to get that bullshit out of our head. So with that, I say, tune in every Sunday at 2 p.m. Check out me and my brother C. Gutter on the OG Wisdom podcast. And hopefully you were inspired by something you learned here tonight. So it's your turn to go out and inspire others. So y'all stay up, stay blessed, stay true. And remember, no matter how hard things may seem right now, there's always better days ahead. Sister Keisha.
Thank you, each and every one of you for rocking out with us right here on the Brooklyn Bridge every Thursday, 8 to 10 p.m. Tell somebody to tell somebody to tell somebody that this is where it goes down. I think I'm going to go check out that movie Sinners on Sunday. I think I want to go. Did you see it, Marcia?
I absolutely enjoyed it. When you going? Sunday?
Yes, I'm going to go Sunday.
Tell me what time. We'll talk privately. I'll go see it again.
Okay. All right. We're gonna go to the Snooty Theater to see it.
I would love to go to a snooty theater where they're going to serve me hamburgers.
You ever been to the night hall?
I thought they was going to the Snooty Fox.
I was going to tell them let them eat cake.
No, seriously, anything after 3, I'm down with it.
Okay, cool.
Thank you, sis.
Yes, it'll be after 3 because I have to babysit my grandson, so it'll be after 3. But I don't know. Have you ever been to the Nighthawk on what do you call that? By Mega Evans, the Nighthawk Theater.
No.
Oh yeah, it's nice.
So off the cuff, the last snooty theater or really great theater that I went to that I really enjoyed myself, I took Jake on to the Albee Square Mall, formerly known theater upstairs. We had a great formerly known as Albee Square Mall. Thank you, brother. That theater was really great. We really enjoyed ourselves there.
That's nice.
You ain't nothing.
Bad hombres. I'll send y'all their Instagram page. I'm surprised. Well, anyway. Yeah, that's where we be going to see it too. So I think you'll enjoy yourself. The food is excellent there too. Excellent. I mean, you can get dinners and all that. But anyway, gonna check that out Sunday because I'm in the right state of mind after doing all this family research and dealing with all of this. I'm going to see somebody get their head split. So,
hey, Sister Keisha, I want to make one mention of something.
Yes, sir.
We know that Israel's having forest fires right now, and quite ironic, right after what happened in Spain and Portugal, that last night and today is their Independence Day. So for them to be having fires on their Independence Day is kind of crazy. I just needed to mention that before we go out.
Thank you for that.
Got you. So again, get ready next week. I want y'all to watch that video about the Salaga slave market so that you can be right in tune with where we're going next week. And be healthy. Take care of yourselves. Keep your head on the swivel. A lot of things got blue rain in California, all kind of foolishness. So, listen, stay smart, be wise, be strategic, and enjoy the rest of your week, y'all. Good night, y'all. We out.
On the Brooklyn Bridge tonight, voices strong, knowledge tight. Thorough black talk in the air, changing minds, changing flair. From brother Tad to sister K, warriors got things to say. Sister Marcy brings the heat, brother Blacksmith keeps the beat. Revolutionary waves, they fly underneath the open sky. Every word's a call to fight. Tune in, feel the ancestral light. Thursday nights the world will see Black Power Media on a spree. Facebook, YouTube all aligned, breaking free from every bind. Social talk and politics, every voice breaks through the matrix. Commentary raw and true, for the many, not the few. Revolutionary waves, they fly underneath the open sky. Every word's a call to fight. Tune in, feel the ancestral light. Social talk and politics. Every voice breaks through the matrix. Commentary raw and true. For the many, not the few. Revolutionary waves, they